I actually had a very unique MTC experience, though. So I was there for 4 weeks, which no one is supposed to be there for 4 weeks. It's either, at the time, it was either 3 or, for Spanish speakers, 3 or 10. No, 3 or 9. I was there for 4. I had somewhere around 10 companions and 4 districts in those 4 weeks. So it was a ride. I really enjoyed it. I actually loved the MTC in general, but I guess I should explain how I had so many districts. So I served Spanglish speaking, I like to say, but officially I was called Spanish speaking. In South Texas, lots of people speak either language, English or Spanish, and all of the missionaries in the mission are called speaking Spanish. But people from Spanish-speaking countries have to learn English, and every missionary proselytes in both languages. So, in the MTC, I was there studying Spanish, and they started me, for whatever reason, they started me in the beginner's class, which I was fine with. But I had taken AP Spanish in high school, and so I was familiar with it. And so I got into my district. We were in the beginners section, and I really liked my companion. He was very musical, which I enjoyed. And he played piano, so I figured, hey, he can play piano, I can sing, this is going to be great. He likes to run, which is good because I see ourselves running to classes to avoid being late on a regular basis. I struggled a little bit with time management at the time, but so we get to our first class, and the teacher asks, "Is there anyone who knows how to bear their testimony in Spanish?" And I said, "I think I can do this." And so I did, and he said, "Come with me." And that was the end of my time in my first district. So this was probably the morning of my second day in the MTC. So I spent one night in this companionship. So he took me, had me tested my Spanish skills, and they determined that I fell right on the line between intermediate and advanced. So I'm not sure why I ended up in the beginner, but I enjoyed it. I liked that district, and I served in the same mission as the companion I had for that day. So they decided I was almost good enough to be in advanced, but they said, well, we'll put you in intermediate for now. The advanced districts leave after only 3 weeks typically, and then the regular beginning and intermediate leave after 9. So they put me into an intermediate district, and that was great. I came into a trio at that point. So there were 2 companions, and they just made me the 3rd companion. I loved that companionship, Elder Iveson and Elder Cokerhands. One of my companions actually, well, they were both actually very musical again, which I enjoyed. So it was fun singing hymns alongside them because they'd sing harmony. And one of them actually, his brother, Elder Cokerhands, his brother is in a barbershop quartet, which I grew up listening to. An excellent quartet named Reprise. But speaking of famous people in the MTC. But so that was a good experience. I was in that district, and I stayed there for about 5 days. And what they had told me was, they said, if you feel like the Spanish is coming back to you, and that you think you should be in an advanced district, then come back and be tested again. So after 4 or 5 days, I felt like my Spanish was getting a lot better. I was kind of getting into the groove of speaking it a little more, because it had been a little while since I'd spoken Spanish when I went in. And so I said, you know what, I think maybe I'm ready for this. But I should add first, another missionary was transferred in, and so that I became his companion. So at this point, my companion count is up to 4. 2 districts, 4 companions, it's been about a week. And to make matters more interesting, that was the week of Thanksgiving. And this is significant because basically, so I went in, I said, I think well, I thought about it actually. I went to the temple, well, we all did as a district. And as I was in the temple, I was praying about whether I should go to be tested, and I felt like I should go the next day at a specific time and talk to them. And I said, okay, then I'll do that. And I did, and basically I came and talked to the person there. My teacher kind of felt like maybe I should still be an intermediate, but I had this impression, and so I went and talked to him, and I said, I don't know where I'm supposed to go, but I feel like I should at least go get tested. So they tested me again, and at the end of it, they were talking in Spanish about me, and my companion was listening, and he's like, I don't think they're going to transfer you. Apparently he had better comprehension skills than I did at that point. And then eventually they come up to me, and the guy says, you know, we don't really want to move you into advanced. Like, we think that you're a better fit for intermediate, but we feel like we should, so we're going to. And so that's how I left my second district. And it was neat though, because I had felt like I was following inspiration. And it was kind of a scary thing in some ways, but I decided to go ahead with that, to do what I felt like I should do in the temple. And again, I didn't know, it wasn't my responsibility where they should place me. So it wasn't that I knew that I needed to be in the advanced district, but I felt like I needed to go get tested. That was what was within my dominion, my sphere of control. And then the rest was in the Lord's hands, basically, and these people, and they had felt similarly that I should be in advanced, even though they didn't think that made a ton of sense. And so they moved me into the advanced district. So now we're a week in, and where I was supposed to leave in actually 10 weeks, typically it's 9, but because of the timing of, I was scheduled to enter the MTC during Thanksgiving, and they don't take missionaries during Thanksgiving week because a lot of their staff is gone because of the holiday, and so they took all of us a week early, which is why it would be 4 or 10 weeks. So I went from 10 weeks to 4 weeks, and this is already 1 week in. So now I've got 3 weeks left in the MTC, and I've had my 4 companions, and I get put in, I think it was a trio again. So that puts my companion count up to 6. But actually, before that even, because it was Thanksgiving week, this is where Thanksgiving comes in, all of their staff was gone, like in the office, and so they couldn't actually assign me a companion. So there was a while where I was floating as a solo elder among a bunch of elders, and it was just like, be with the group or tag onto a companionship there. But they couldn't actually change my district either. So during the day, I would go to classes with the advanced speaking district, which were held entirely in Spanish. And in the evening, I would go back to my companions in the intermediate group, and I would be their companions. So that left my companionless for half of the day. And I just tagged around with this entire group of missionaries, and this persisted for like 4 or 5 days. So really the entire advanced district was my companionship. So this is entertaining. But then after that, so we go through, and I'm enjoying that district. I finally, after years of studying Spanish, finally the advanced district taught me how to roll my R's, which I was very pleased with. I had previously done like a guttural roll that sounded kind of like a Wookiee call. Now I can really roll my R's. So I enjoyed that district. It was interesting. Eventually I got assigned again to a companionship. I think it was in a trio. And then after 3 weeks, that whole district left the MTC. Because the way that the advanced districts were, the district that would have been in my cohort that would have left together, they thought was too big to put me in. So they put me in a smaller district that actually left at a different time. So that was the end of that district. And so at the beginning of my 4th week, I got moved into a 4th district, which is the one that Hermanas Aldivar was in. And I was assigned additional companions. I can't remember. I think, yes, once again, I was in a trio. So that's 8 companions at this point. And my 4th district, and it was great. It was a good district. Now there were people who were going to, I don't know if there was anyone from my mission actually in that district, but, and then the additional 2 companions just came at the end of my stay, as some companions left early and others late, and so we kind of got temporary reassignments. So that's a long story, but that is how I had 10 companions and 4 districts in 4 weeks at the MTC.